Hello, everyone. I'm doing a quick little video here in regards to the mark making exercises. I'm going to have you do 3 of them, or I'm having you do 3 of them, depending when you see this. And each one a little bit different. They all kind of involve this idea of kind of expressiveness of mark in relation to the notion of structure. Again, we're coming off of talking about perspective, which is kind of all about structure and analysis and that sort of thing. So we'll be using using that throughout the rest of the semester. So I want you to do is kind of still use that straight edge, that notion of the straight line, the straight mark, and play around with kind of increasing the speed at which you lay the mark down, altering the size of the marks, and the position and the angle, so that you kind of start to kind of play with the idea of spreading the wealth around, as it were, in terms of the picture plane, right? Now, your drawing is going to be bigger than this, but I'm just kind of showing you this as a way to kind of think about how to disperse this energy across the picture plane using just straight lines and angles and length of line. You can kind of create it's a kind of an abstract experience, certainly, but you can kind of create a kind of energy or kind of expression by using that straight edge as a tool, and it kind of gives you a discipline in terms of the countering expressiveness with a sense of temperament, structure. It's very difficult to kind of just create something out of nothing in terms of the form of a particular piece or the structure of the particular piece. So what you do is you try to set rules up for yourself to create kind of resistance in the drawing, and the straight edge is kind of playing that role here. So in this one, I just want you to make 1,000 marks. It doesn't have to be 100% accurate, and spreading the marks across the page in such a way to create as much of equilibrium as you can. In this limited time, I certainly am not near a sense of equilibrium yet, but it would happen. And the next one is the same principle, essentially, but in this one, instead of just creating singular marks, what I want you to do is create marks as a result of, moving the ruler as you use the straight edge, okay? So what you're ending up with are these parallel hatches that have kind of a lilt to them. The faster you move, the less dense that kind of patchwork of marks is, right? Now notice how I'm turning the ruler and spreading this across, still adhering to this notion of equilibrium, trying to spread the wealth and the energy across the picture plane, so that I can kind of create this patchwork, right, as it were. And the longer I go, the more dense the drawing becomes, right? So we're thinking about here, we did it, the other one is that way too, this idea of the first exercise of not only filling up the page, but overlaying the marks so that you can start to create a sense of density and presence to the drawing itself, which is a really important concept. Think about it. You're doing a couple things here. You're laying marks down. You're applying an energy. Those marks are the result of some body movement, right? Again, we want to draw from the shoulder, and keep your hand off the paper and make sure you're holding the pencil way back at the edge. But the marks are the kind of transfer of the energy of your bodily movement, right? It's kind of like dance. So you need to think about that as you make the marks too as well. So I'm drawing, you can't see, but I'm drawing with my whole arm. So it's a document. Each one of those kind of patches or each mark is a document of movement in space, right? So they document that. They create a pattern to a certain extent because they're kind of these patches of value. Eventually they will become that. They create energy in the drawing, kind of via direction and how fast you make your mark. And by the way, try to go as fast as you can with this process, all 3 drawings, and draw as lightly as you possibly can as well. It gives you latitude to keep filling up the page and kind of filling in the holes and the areas that don't have as many marks. And so what happens is that you can kind of get rid your marks. Will eventually, if I worked on this for 2 hours, eventually I'd kind of be able to lay one patch over another, and create a really dense dark value across the drawing, yet remain consistent with it. Now you might ask, why don't you just turn the pencil on the side and do it that way and then smudge it? Well, the nice thing about this is that the marks never go away, kind of, right? So that energy is always there, that vibration, that humanity is always there, and you're not kind of obliterating it by smudging it all together. We'll smudge when we get into charcoal, but in the graphite drawings we'll do and blend with our finger and all that sort of stuff. But with the graphite drawings, I don't want you to do that. I want blending to occur just by layering of marks over a long period of time. So this is an exercise to kind of get you that, start thinking about that, and it's a way to kind of deal with this notion of parallel hatches. So what I'm doing essentially is doing the parallel hatches, and then kind of by turning, we're what we'd call cross hatching. So that's going to be something that we're going to focus on in the next project or two, this idea of overlaying parallel lines in different directions to create density, to create darker value, and to also reveal a sense of plane, and we'll talk about that later on. So the direction of the mark can kind of give that sense of direction of a particular plane. So you can kind of see I'm just kind of dispersing the energy across this thing, picking and choosing, and moving quickly across the picture plane as well. I want to create that equilibrium. Now the third one is just a kind of a free scribble, but it's not so free because I want you to kind of do an up-down movement. Again, hold the pencil as I'm showing you there really lightly in your hand, right? Kind of just resting it in your hand, using the weight of the pencil. Now in this drawing, I really want you to focus on moving, drawing lightly, so you're just using the weight of the pencil. And these scribbles are kind of an up, down, left, right movement. Again, thinking about, I don't have the ruler anymore, but I'm still thinking about structure with my scribbles. They're not just loops or kind of swirls or something like that. They're kind of these really light marks that kind of go in a figure eight, but not really. It's just if you can kind of practice moving your pencil up and down as you work, that creates the structure in the scribble. Again, that reflects the edges of the format, of course, right? The verticals and the horizontals of the drawing itself. Again, you'll be working in a bigger space than this. I've kind of limited just because of the video. Notice how I'm moving across the picture plane constantly, not focusing on any one area, and just trying to. And the size of the scribbles, you're going to find a comfort zone with your body, in terms of the moving with your shoulder. Again, I'm drawing from the shoulder here. You can't see it, but my hand's off the drawing, so I don't accidentally smudge the drawing. I want to keep our hands off the drawing, and I'm holding the pencil from the back. If I'm spending a half hour on the drawing, and we'll be using this techniques to do really fine renderings eventually. So this is the way we'll start them. It's just a layering of value. But if you're doing a drawing, over this will be yours will be about a half hour, maybe 20 minutes, half hour. You shouldn't get to the point in the drawing where you hold the pencil down to the tip, near the tip, okay? Because that's detail stuff that we work on later. So the object here is to kind of just stay free with it, move around. I'm not using the side of the pencil. It's like a 45-degree angle. You can't really see that too well with the view here, but it's like a 45-degree angle to the paper, the pencil is. And so I can see the marks too. I'm not working without seeing what's going on the paper. And just moving my way around and trying to fill very lightly. If I went really dark with a couple scribbles, then I'd be sunk because I can't erase, right? Once I start erasing, it disrupts the kind of vibration that's going on, the kind of seamless vibration, right? There's truth to art, right? In process, in terms of process, we tie into the idea of how something is made when we look at a work of art. So if I were, I set the rules out for myself that I didn't want to kind of do subtraction or erasure on this drawing. I wanted to be all what they call additive, right? I'm just adding marks over time. Now, some drawings you subtract, particularly when you go into charcoal, we'll be doing that, but we'll be doing it in using graphite, with particularly with the parallel hatches, because I'll show you how to do the parallel hatches using the eraser. So you're using that same technique, but kind of subtracting to add depth to the drawing and to alter value. But in this technique, when we do the scribble drawings, it's going to be all additive. So what that does is it trains you to move slowly, because you can't subtract. So you got to be very careful not to go too dark when you're drawing. Otherwise, you have one big mark sticking out like a sore thumb. And I kind of do there, that kind of mid-right, there's that long mark there. If I work, it's not too dark, but if I, spend a lot of time on this drawing, I could certainly get rid of that just by darkening up the whole drawing. But as I'm going, I'm kind of searching with my eye to see areas that I can kind of focus on with smaller scribbles, right? To do this fill, so that you get this kind of hazy kind of vibe to the drawing. That's just this kind of mellow sort of kind of thing going on. Yet, as you know, lots of energy, right? I'm constantly moving, having fun, I'm free, I feel the pencil touch the paper. I do have a certain kind of way that I want to make the mark, so there's a sense of structure in my process, right? In the way I'm kind of moving the mark up and down and left and right, just kind of kind of think of music when you do it. But as I go here, I don't know if you noticed or not, I'm starting to make the scribbles. Now this is a little soon for your drawing. Your drawing's bigger, and it's going to take you a little bit more to do this because you're not used to it. But I'm starting to go a little smaller with the scribbles. So over time, what you do with this kind of scribble technique is you can kind of shrink the scribbles a little bit. Not slowing down, I'm still moving across the picture plane, right? I'm not by any means getting to a point where if I was rendering a picture of something where I'd be doing detail work yet. So I'm still staying free with the movement, but the scribbles are getting a little smaller. The trick here is to move very, very, very quickly, very lightly, okay? And keep your pencil moving and to address every part of the picture plane, if you can. Don't be systematic about that. Don't like work from one side to the other. Just kind of move across the picture plane as you work. So I'm not doing that. I'm not filling in one little area, moving to the next, filling in another area perfectly. You can do this over a long period of time, so that's how you gain kind of overall pictorial density in the drawing and a sense of finish when you draw using this technique. So there's a freedom, but there's a structure, and that's always the case in art, when you make art. And this is really important because, this is about that sense of touch, this is everything, this idea of kind of creating a vibration in the drawing, The drawing is nothing other than that graphite laying on the paper, right? It's not a bowl, it's not a cup, or whatever you want to draw a picture of, it's just an illusion. So the how you do it is really important. The energy that the drawing exudes is almost more important than the subject matter, quote unquote. Although one might argue that they are one and the same, but or the content, however you want to define that. But you can see this kind of even field that I'm creating here. This this kind of field energy. So. Okay, so again, these are just 3 exercises that will help you out in terms of manipulating the material, which is graphite. Okay, thanks much.